Right guys, hope you're doing well. So in this video I wanted to just give people a bit of a journey, really, a bit of a rundown on how I came to have a more Christian mindset. Obviously Christianity is a very touchy subject these days. A lot of people get brought up, including myself, to kind of shun religion, to not really think about Christianity or God, and that was me 100%. I was definitely scientifically minded. I remember I had a big ego about it. I was like, God isn't real, and evolution and all this sort of stuff, and I was quite proud of the fact that I was an atheist. But as I've healed and done the program, Christian-minded, I want to just give people a bit of a rundown on how that sort of happened, because it's quite fascinating, and a lot of it is connected to the fact that while you heal on this program of truth, you will be given experiences and challenges that will kind of align you up with Christianity, and naturally. It's really interesting. So when I first began the program, I wasn't too aware of the spiritual aspects to the program. I'd read about them, but not fully, didn't fully resonate with them, or I just wasn't ready. I was more interested in healing for obvious reasons. I didn't come to the Nutritional Balancing program to start on this enlightening spiritual journey. I started it to heal. But what happened is, a couple of years in, maybe year, probably less than that actually, probably about a year and a half in, I could always feel chi running down my body when I was doing the pushing down exercise, but I started to begin to feel chakras spinning, and that was the first thing that made me realise, actually Dr. Wilson's onto something here. What he's talking about in his articles I'm starting to experience. And I started to experience kind of chakras opening up in my body. I had one time when I was doing the pulling down exercise whereby my heart chakra just opened up, and I had this amazing experience where I could feel the edges of the room, which was quite fascinating. I didn't really understand how that was working, but it was as if I'd kind of come out of time and space for a short period and experienced this. But what really got me onto it, I suppose, was not long after that experience, maybe 4 months after, 5 months after, I went through a really big copper dump. And I wasn't really fully aware of copper dumping at that time. I'd heard about it, but I wasn't expecting how intense it was going to be. And I thought I was going to die. I thought this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And I thought to myself, well, I can't do anything at the moment but pray. And that's what I did. I prayed. And weird things started to happen. I mean, weird things was happening before that, but I was really tuning into them now. And weird things started to happen. People used to turn up at my door in Thailand, just unexpected people that I'd never met before, giving me advice. People came at the right time when I needed friends and I was lonely. People would just come or ring me up, which was really interesting. I was just getting in touch with a lot of information that was coming my way. A psychic told me that it was the TMG that had kicked out my liver. I was thinking, that's interesting. I started listening to a lot of Christian YouTube channels, just wanting to get into, just trying to get close to God in this really painful, difficult time. And I remember one time in my bed, I was praying, saying, please help, please help, please help. And I saw 3 angel outlines of angels above my bed, and I must have had severe insomnia at this point for about a week while I was going through this dump. And these angels kind of came down and held me, and as soon as they held me, I just felt this amazing healing, and I fell asleep, and I had a really good sleep that night. And that was kind of the turning point for me, that period where I was praying to God and getting these answers, getting this information from people, seeing the angels, and having quite enlightening experiences. I remember one time in the copper dump, I just felt the urge to go into the lake, to go to the river. It was more like a small lake. and just cried, and just for whatever reason I was just telling my mum and parents that I loved them, and again my heart chakra just kind of cracked open and just felt like an atomic bomb just from my heart just reverberated around the earth. You know, I was thinking that my mum must have felt something at that point, and I kind of collapsed in the field and fell asleep. So that was kind of one of the turning points for me when I was starting to realise, you know what, there's something to God, there's something to Christianity. I wasn't too sure what was going off at that point, but it started me on the path. Now as I started to come over, get better from this copper dump, obviously I was getting more into spirituality, feeling my chakras more. I had some amazing esoteric abilities started to occur. I could make things happen at a distance. You know, it's got to a point now where I've touched people on a couple of occasions and healed. They start to heal as a result, which was very fascinating. But I speak more about the esoteric abilities on the YouTube channel. I think it's entitled "The Esoteric Abilities I Have Manifested or Got While Being on the Program." So check that out. I'm not going to go too much into that because it's on the other channel. And you know, I started to get into the New Age scene, which is a part of development, I should say. You know, the New Age scene is very enlightening on one level. You get a lot of soul-centered people, very happy-go-lucky people, and you know, when you was coming out of this hellish experience, you know, I was looking for people to connect with, and I ended up getting into the kind of New Age scene in my city, and it did help a lot on one level. It got me more in touch with spirituality. It got me in touch with connections with people, with heart-centered connections, and you know, love and gratitude, etc. But I started to see a dark side of New Age people. A lot of them have poor morals. A lot of them they're into different types of sexuality. They spiritually bypass a lot of things, which I didn't like. And because I was becoming more yang in the program, and I'd read Dr. Wilson's articles, and you know, I do believe that my parents brought me up fairly well with good morals and values, I wasn't resonating with this stuff, and I didn't like it. You know, they like to stay up late a lot of the times and dance and party, which is fine. It did it on quite a conscious level, whereby, you know, there wasn't any drink and alcohol involved. But I was starting to realise that, you know, this is not quite right. So that's when I started to realise how important Christianity is. So I'm kind of moving up the levels a little bit here, you know. So I've gone from real bad sickness to, you know, opening myself up to spirituality, feeling esoteric things, chakras, and then getting into kind of the New Age spirituality, which has its merits, don't get me wrong. But then realising that's not quite right. There's no structure. That was one thing I realised. There's no structure. They're not based on anything. New Age spirituality is whatever you want it to be. Some people believe in paganism, some people believe in Buddhism, some people believe in polygamy. The world's your oyster in New Age spirituality. So I kind of started getting more into Christianity, and realising that having structure and having the Bible to read, and you know, having various rules and regulations to stick by is important, and it's needed, and it keeps humans grounded and safe and content. And you know, they speak a lot about community and you know, loving each other. They speak. It's amazing. It's amazing religion. A lot of the reasons why I didn't like it in the beginning and people don't like it is that we've been fed a load of rubbish about it. You know, people cherry pick items from the Bible and throw them down people's throat. And when you really look into Christianity, it's amazing. One thing I had to do was realise that this is a really deep book, because if you read it on a surface level, it can seem a little bit weird, a little bit wishy-washy. One thing I learnt is that it's probably a good idea to read the New Testament first rather than the Old Testament, because the Old Testament is a bit of a challenge. You know, you've got to realise that this book was written 2,000 years ago, well, even older than that, and you've got to put yourself back in their shoes and understand the way that they word things. But you got to read between the lines and feel into the Bible, and you understand it better, and it starts to become much more clearer. And when you kind of match that up with your ideas on esoteric things and chi and chakras and prana, you start to get a much more deeper understanding about Christianity. So I started going to church because I was in a difficult position. I did think that the New Age community would make me feel content, and that didn't happen. It actually made, so I was in this horrible position where I wasn't feeling good. So I started going to church as a way to feel that need, and it did on many respects. I did enjoy the fact that church made me feel grounded. There was a very family orientated atmosphere there, very God-centered, which was amazing. They all put God first. And one thing I really thought was, if I'm going to be in a relationship, I need to be in a Christian relationship. But then I started to find some issues in the Christianity scene, which I don't want to knock too much, because the Christian mindset, the Christian people are really trying the best in life. And it's just an important thing to try to not pull them down too much, because they really are trying the best, unlike a lot of people. But there were some things that I just couldn't resonate with. They used to eat cake and cups of tea with plenty of sugar in, and cake and buns, and you'd have an amazing service, and then at the end they'd just sit and eat pizza, and I was like, how can you do this? Like, this is not what God intended. Do you know what I mean? You need to treat your body like a temple, and there's a development. And they was just like, oh no, all you need to do is focus on God and everything will be fine. And I'm like, well, but this person's got diabetes, this person's got cancer, and they're like, oh no, that's just God's plan. And I'm like, nah, you're wrong, it's not right. I tried a couple of relationships with, and I should point out that I started to there's a few things that I questioned a little bit in Christianity, and one thing that was a big one for me is the only way to God is through Jesus Christ, and that didn't sit too well with me. What about life on other planets? What about tribal people? What about Buddhists? You're telling me that these amazing Zen monks are going to go to hell? You're trying to tell me that people who really try and live a good life but might not be a Christian are going to hell? No, it's rubbish. I just couldn't resonate with that, and found out that Dr. Wilson also doesn't resonate with that as well. And started to read about James, Jesus' brother, who started off the early Christianity. It was really fascinating to read about James. He kind of got pushed out the Bible a little bit, and James taught that Jesus was a prophet, just like they teach Jesus as a prophet in Islam. And he was here to help, and he was here to teach people about love, and that makes much more sense to me, but that way of thinking doesn't sit well in church. And I believe in reincarnation. That doesn't sit well in church. But James's brother did talk about reincarnation, and early Christianity also talks about reincarnation. So I do believe that my instincts were right, and Dr. Wilson agrees with that. I tried being in a couple of Christian relationships with women. They totally kind of shunned me when I started to mention about reincarnation and stuff. And they're quite close-minded on one level. They don't want to talk about chakras or energy centres or vortexes or anything like that. So quickly realised that a Christian woman wasn't right for me, and I ended up messaging Dr. Wilson about it, and he was like, yeah, you're right, you need to find a more open-minded kind of Christian person, which I have found now. I have come into contact with a woman like that, and it's a really beautiful connection. So I'm at a point now whereby I do have a Christian mind. I totally love the Bible. I read the Bible. I read between the lines. But at the same time, I do believe that Jesus was a prophet. I don't believe that you've got to see Jesus as your Lord and Saviour to get through to heaven. Dr. Wilson also agrees with that. And that's not coming from a perspective whereby I'm just I'm just doing what Dr. Wilson does like a clone. I also felt that within my heart, within my soul. And before I read Dr. Wilson's articles on it, and then read his articles, and then it made sense. So it wasn't coming from him, it was coming from me, which I found quite interesting. So would I call myself a Christian? Depends who you're at, depends who you ask, A lot of Christians, hardcore Christians that just follow the Bible letter for letter, would not class Dr. Wilson as a Christian. Would Dr. Wilson class me as a Christian? Yes, he would. Would James's brother, Jesus' brother, class me as a Christian? Yeah. But the idea is to have a Christian mindset, to respect Christian values, Christian traditions. Marriage, for example, is an excellent Christian tradition. All the ideas of working hard and, giving to the world and service and loving one another, loving your neighbour, eye for an eye. All this is amazing stuff. So that's what I want to kind of end on. I would say there is a book that I'll try and link in the description about Jesus' brother James, and it's a really interesting book that you should read. Tells you a lot about that. I'll probably speak about early Christianity in another chat, in another talk, because it is quite interesting. But I just kind of wanted to give you a bit of a journey of where I've come and where I am now in my views on Christianity and where I sit in the realm of Christianity. So I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, add them in the comments box below. Again, thanks for joining Patreon. This channel is going to expand. A lot of people don't realise that nutritional balancing isn't my full-time job. I cannot earn enough money from just doing hair tests. So I am trying to get my Patreon account up to a level whereby I can make nutritional balancing a full-time job. So thanks for supporting that, and I'll catch you all soon. Alright, mate.